Jake, buddy, how are you, bud?
Hey,
How
I'm
are you?
good. How are you?
Good. So, you know how to share the screen. I'm interested in what's on your radar after last week and, you know, major moves and short
Yeah.
squeezes and,
Well,
uh,
those are
go ahead.
not on my radar personally, but I've never been a person to really get into any type of stock that's already kind of made the move. And when people that I've never even met before at a get together or something are telling me, about a stock, that's generally when I like, okay, this is
Yeah.
definitely the top, which was interesting. GameStop kind of is just absolutely tanking today. What I'm looking at is I generally look at leaders and laggards. So I'm looking at the leaders to get an idea of what's kind of hot, and then I'm looking at the laggards to see what hasn't moved yet.
Okay.
Um, so we'll just look at SPY real quick just to get an idea of kind of the overall strength of the market. We had a nice pullback. I personally thought it was going to pull back more, but my opinion really doesn't matter in the market. So
Yeah.
I
I've
really,
noticed that
yep,
for
yep.
me too, Jake.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So,
Yeah.
I just kind of I went to a little heavier cash than normal, but I didn't, try to be the next big short, trying to short the market. I did think there would possibly be some liquidity issues with, Robinhood and maybe a couple other brokers, but it seems like Robinhood got quite an infusion of cash to help out, but I do think there was quite a liquidity issue there. But on the SPY, essentially what we did was we really just moved back down to pretty much where everybody was break even. And when I've come on the show before, the main thing that I'd like to talk about are raindrops, which I know you love the raindrops,
I
but
do.
also,
Your VWAPs.
the volume weighted average price from
Yeah.
specific areas. So
Yeah.
you'll see here, essentially what I've done is I've anchored a volume an anchored VWAP from this breakout that we had after the elections. I also
Right.
anchored one from this vaccine news that we had on November 9th. And you'll see how well these areas acted as a level of interest multiple times over the last couple months for
Yeah.
price action. And notice sometimes they test the top VWAP, sometimes they test the bottom. But all in all, it's more of a zone, as always, rather than just one precise area. The other thing I wanted to mention here is this big area that I highlighted in green. And so what I've done is I've measured since we bottomed here on October 30th, when where are a majority of shares holding since this point. That's what the volume by price is telling us. So let's assume everybody or a lot of people are holding around the point of control, but you can see there's also a couple other volume nodes here creating more of a shelf. When we were way up in the 385 area, these shares were holding at almost a 4% gain, and that's relatively decent on SPY, an index. So as the price started to move down over the last few week and a half, we pretty much went right back down to break even. And everybody thinks that, oh yeah, but buyers came in and pushed the price up from this area. Well, you do need buyers really to get the move that we saw yesterday. But on Friday, the reason why we likely bounced here was simply because all of these shares were back to break even. There was no more profits to sell. It's a lot easier to sell something when you have profit. When you don't have profit anymore, you're less likely to just pull the sell trigger, and you start thinking a little more. You're like, okay, well, I'm back to break even. I just had a 4% gain. And that's likely what happened is you're bouncing because supply is drying up, not necessarily because this huge influx of demand came in. So
So
that is
is
SPY.
what you're saying? That's not the bounce isn't as bullish. Is that what you're
Um,
saying?
not necessarily. What I'm saying is generally when you get to these areas, the initial bounce is due to a drop in supply. Because as we're kind of waterfalling here, these are people panic selling profits essentially, or a lot. Once you get back down here, people kind of let up on the gas because they don't have any more profits to sell. So this is your initial bounce, generally a function of supply drying up rather than just a huge influx of demand, because a lot of people don't like to just buy the dip on a day that's down over 2%. So
On a
generally
Friday.
that, yeah, on a Friday. So generally that selling pressure exhausts, and then you have a new day on Monday. People realize that the world isn't ending, and Robinhood is actually still liquid, which I was kind of shocked by. Hey, it's a big platform, and they have a
Yeah,
lot
they
of
say
money.
Friar Tuck brought in about 3 billion.
I saw that. I saw that, and
Yeah, the merry
that's
men,
awesome.
the merry men were out in the Sherwood Forest and brought in
Yeah,
some
yeah.
cash. Yeah.
So, that's something. One thing I think is interesting, as much as everybody says Wall Street bets and all that, we're moving GameStop and all that, I definitely think that was a part of it. But, you look at some of the flow on GameStop and some of those other ones, those were not retail traders making those trades. I mean, no retail trader is putting, blocks of millions of dollars into, calls. So, um,
Oh, that's
it
interesting, Jake. Why do you? Yeah. Okay. So, what we're hearing in the media was, this was, a gathering of some of these social media platforms that just ganged up on hedge funds and created the short squeeze. You don't think it was social media retail. You think it was the pros that were
well,
behind it.
I think it definitely exacerbated the whole thing. A
Okay.
lot of,
Yeah.
if you have 100,000 people coming in with an average of $500, that's $50 billion of capital being,
Yeah.
moved into the market. So that definitely helped, but it wasn't just retail traders. And
Okay.
it's one of those things
It
that
was hard for me to believe too, because we were always taught. Well, I was always taught to fade what retail traders were doing. This would have been like um, kind of a turning of the worm that they are able to in a group be able to dominate hedge funds.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like a great story, but at the end of the day, retail traders only have so much power, and anytime I see on social media some type of movement like I think hold the line was trending. Well, if it was actually retailers and everybody's quote unquote holding the line, there gets to a threshold where people don't care about these people that they have no idea. They care about the fact that they're up 300 or 400% profit, and they say, okay, maybe I'm not going to hold the line anymore. And
Yeah.
you get this huge influx of selling because it's just a momentum thing. As soon as everybody sees red, everyone's like, ooh, maybe no one else is holding the line either, and then you get that pullback. And I think it was kind of brilliant that this whole silver short squeeze thing was a topic. As much as I don't think retail traders, caused this whole thing, I think they were part of it. And I think it was really interesting to see that I think a lot of demand started to leave, uh, or at least attention started to leave GameStop, and everyone's looking at silver. I think the problem is everyone didn't realize silver is a massive,
Yeah.
massive liquid
Global.
market,
Yeah.
and GameStop and AMC are not. And so it's one of those. But the things that I'm watching right now, I'll mention a couple, are CRM. Full disclosure, I do have positions in most of these stocks. CRM is one that's just really got this beautiful inverse head and shoulders here.
Salesforce.
If we start the volume by price from this November 9th high, you'll see that we're finally starting to kind of get a peekaboo outside of this volume shelf. And remember, the volume shelf is just an area where a majority of shares are holding. So if the price is above that area, I look at it as a level, as a kind of a launch pad for price. If you have a bunch of shares above, so let's say that we go to the
What do you call
weekly.
that, Jake? A volume shelf?
I call it a volume shelf just because it's a group of nodes of volume. It's not just
Okay.
one point of control. So if we're
Got
on
it.
the weekly chart right here,
Yeah.
I call this a volume shelf because it's not just the point of control that is really sticking out here. It's a group of about 4 volume nodes creating this huge base for price. And what happens is you have these areas, these gaps in liquidity above. Essentially, you can see since we bottomed in March, a lot of shares are holding in this 215 to 230 area. And then you really don't have a lot of people holding here. One, there's a price gap above, but two, this is measuring from March 16th. So, even though we did have price action within this area multiple times, there's still not a lot of liquidity here. So anytime you have a low liquidity area like this, it definitely allows price to move up quicker because you don't have a lot of break-even sellers above. Now, once we get up to, let's say 240, what is this, 245 to 250, these shares up here are holding at a drawdown, right? The price
Yeah.
is at 230. They're holding at a 7%, unrealized loss. So as the price moves back up, they're back to break even here. They
And
likely
selling
are
will
like,
come in.
maybe I'm
Yeah.
going to take some off the table. I just dealt with this
Yeah.
drawdown for like 2 months.
Oh,
That adds
that's
to
nothing.
supply. And that's how you get this,
Yeah.
that's how you get a little bit of a consolidation here, if you want to call it that. But here, I mean, there's not a lot of liquidity above for this thing. This thing's actually shown relative strength over the last couple of weeks as the market was doing some weird stuff. So this is
Are
one
you
that
looking to take some off the table at that level? If it gets to 245?
Yeah, I'm in an options position. So I'm generally, just looking for that impulse move. I mean, if we did an absolute rip in the next 2 days into the gap, I'd probably just even take my money there because, with options, you really have to
Yeah.
worry about, that initial move is
Decay.
what really drives the premiums.
Right.
And, with common stock, you don't really have to worry about that. But for me, especially if I'm still probably going to be out of the money in the calls I'm in, I'd probably and that's assuming we have a really big impulse move. If not, then I'll kind of monitor it. But for me, I would definitely just be looking at the gap because a lot of people are also looking at the gap. So we've got this gap above right around, let's say 238, depending on where you start the gap. Some people consider where the close is, that would be around 241. But yeah, for me, the gap, the closing of the gap and the fill is pretty much a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's where I think a lot of people kind of start to hit their target as well. So that's where I would look for a potential area of taking some profit. So we'll see. Another one is HYLN. This is one that I've been watching now for about a week and a half. One of my friends actually found this, and I taught him how to use the volume shelf and some of these other features on TrendSpider. And he kind of sent me his thesis. And actually, this is more of a
wedge.
This is more fundamental thing too, because
what is the company, Jake?
It's called HYLN, and essentially what it is it's a powertrain solution for electric vehicles in the commercial side of things. So let's say that Walmart wants to go electric. Instead of them having to buy, however many semi trucks, they can go in and they can just actually convert their trucks to an electric type of solution through this powertrain that they offer. So it's kind of a scalable electric vehicle play where you've got this technology that allows you to
convert combustibles
without having to put down all this capital to buy the whole new truck. And it's in that sweet spot for market cap. It's like $2.6 billion market cap. That's one that's a market cap right now that's really finding momentum. It's not like a micro cap. It's not in the hundreds of millions of dollars. It's still a multi-billion-dollar company, but it's also not $50 billion where it's not as easy for prices to move with when you have, that much liquidity. So, for me personally, I'm looking at this huge area, this volume shelf, essentially. A lot of shares are holding here. And then all you need is a little spark in demand for this to act as kind of a launch pad for price. So this is the setup here. If you look at Big C is one that I traded over the last couple of weeks. Let's see if we can actually, is the falling wedge still there? Of course not, I deleted it. But essentially this looks very similar a couple weeks ago to this. So I think I had kind of this falling wedge here. I had the support, let's say right around here. And what's interesting about this is, you had the same type of thing on Big C. So what you had was you had your initial this weird pop that happened on a little increase in volume. Then you had this decrease in volume with decreasing price. And then you had your reversal. Now, if you look at HYLN, it's literally almost the same exact thing where you've got this little spike in volume. To me, this means that somebody was just really getting aggressive on their buys. Maybe it was shorts covering. I don't know. But, it's very interesting to see the discrepancy here where you've got this impulse move on the candle, and then you've got this sell-off on decreasing volume. So for me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that initial move, which tells me somebody really wants to get in. Once they're done buying really aggressively, you don't necessarily need sellers to come in to drop the price back down. What you need is you simply just need those buyers to cool off for a second. That shifts the demand curve, and the supply curve, let's say, stays the same. You naturally are going to get a price drop just because that huge increase in buyers is done for the time being. So that's how you can get these big moves up.
Doesn't it bother you at all, Jake, when you have a huge volume day up day like that, and it actually takes out the low of that day with all that volume?
Yeah, definitely is something to consider. But also, this stock is very kind of jumpy. The
Do they
spreads
normally hold those big like that candle normally hold with a big volume up? Because you would think they'd be defending their position with all the volume that all the shares they bought in that candle.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the personality of the stock. If it's a pretty liquid stock, you will see that. But there are stocks that just have, some people just aren't as strong holders in some of these stocks. And it's actually interesting that you will get some of this shenanigans going on where you have these technical rules kind of go out of the window. And, these bigger people generally kind of making the market have their own rules. And, it's interesting to see that you can get these undercuts of those previous lows and still see some interesting action. If we go to the weekly chart, this is kind of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing, that VWAP is way up here in the 26 area. We've pretty much done nothing now for like 2 months. And then you have all this volume, but you could easily undercut this volume here. I see it all the time. And then you kind of get your reversal. But all in all, I mean, I think it's one of those ones that if it doesn't, let's see, go back to the daily. If it doesn't really break out of this falling wedge, I exit the trade and move on. But, it's one of those things where it's a SPAC, it's an electric vehicle play. It's not Nikola or however you say that name, where they're trying to reinvent the wheel with the semi truck. They're just creating a technology that allows you to scale that whole process if you wanted to. So it's one of those ones where if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I mean, I could easily see this pulling one of these. I usually am scaling in during these types of times. Most people are like not. And so I do have a little bit of a different style than a lot of people. I'm generally buying some type of, I don't want to say weakness, but at least if there's some type of kind of coiling effect here. If we go to the weekly, the main thing I'm going to look at on the weekly is the MACD. I don't use lower indicators a ton, but I use the MACD as a general guide of what's going on. And you can see the MACD is just really curling very tightly. And you can see what happened last time the MACD was curling on the other side. You had a nice move after that. So, it's one of those things that's a technical side, but it's also a fundamental kind of idea. Now, MGNI is one that
Could I make a request with everything
Sure.
that's going on? I know that this is
Yeah.
your portfolio. I'm wondering if you're showing anything on TrendSpider that would confirm a possible top in any of the silver issues like Hecla or AG or, I mean, they really exploded. It's look at that, an island.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I look for most after a big move like this is just the gaps. So if you turn on what we call the gap snake on TrendSpider, you'll see there's quite a few gaps below. To me, that kind of tells me there's kind of some holes in liquidity. And it looks like, I think we're already showing this today on the chart, we have quite the gap down.
How about at the bottom, even though we were going up on that, Jake, we had red boxes for volume. It was going up on negative volume. Is that the case?
Well, so where the red volume comes in is it's a function of what this candle is. So you can see here that it's a dark gray candle. So whenever you have a hollow candle, you have your open At the bottom, you have your close at the top. So it's kind of like opening a window shade. That's why it's, you can kind of see the sunlight coming out. The solid gray candle is kind of the opposite. Imagine, your open is at the top, your close is at the bottom. It's kind of like closing that window shade. So even though we did close above the previous high, this is pretty much showing us that there was not strength throughout the day. The close was lower than the open. So that's why you get that gray color, but not red. So this, whenever you have a solid candle like this, volume considers it a red day. Even though it closed green, it still considers it a red day.
So maybe it was a harbinger that they weren't, white candles. The last three were all gray candles with the market in a moonshot that kind of shows that people might have been selling into it and distribution happening, even though it blew off like that.
Yeah, I don't like solid candles at all. Okay. Anytime I see a solid candle, it's a pretty big.
I think that's a great chart. Okay,
So
it kind of gives you a different view of the silver chart. So okay, there's GameStop.
GME, same thing. You had these solid candles here, so you could see that people were clearly kind of selling into this. But I think there were just too many shares that were short, and you just had this classic short squeeze. I mean, look at the top here. There were multiple solid candles like this, kind of showing that, okay, hey, even though this is the hottest topic literally in the world, my wife is from Poland, and I mean her parents were talking about this weekend, and they're in Poland, and it just became headline news. Everybody was trying to make $1 million. And that's what kind of bothers me on FinTwit about people posting their profits and all that. Like, I think it's great, whatever, it's not not my thing, but when you have all these people posting profits and look at how much money I made on GameStop, that just creates a frenzy because people get FOMO. They get they start to feel depressed because they're not part of the move. And that's how these horror stories happen. I mean, look at GameStop. It's at 126 right now.
Some people in Poland lost a few pierogies coming into today.
Yeah.
You like your wife makes you pierogies, right?
Amazing ones, yes.
She's
well, it's funny. They're pierogies, but they call them Ruskia pierogies, which stands for Russian pierogies. Those are the potato and bacon and cheese ones.
Oh man, Jake, can you? Yeah,
they're amazing, but I definitely probably eat only pierogies when I go to Poland. So that's
okay. All right.
Me add a couple pounds, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing in the markets. I mean, if GameStop were to catch any type of slight bid, what I'm looking at is, here's your breakout candle, here's your anchored volume weighted average price from that status quo change, which is essentially the breakout. This is where a majority of shares would pretty much be at break even, because this is your average price per share paid, and it kind of goes back to that supply dries up just because nobody has any more profits. So
I've one request from an attendee. Can you look at Ethereum? Is that what you want, Scott? When you say ether, maybe it just means ether. Oh, Ethereum. Okay.
Yeah, Ethereum seems to be looking pretty good here. If I were to anchor the volume by price, I'd probably do it from this capitulation on September 4th. And you can see there's been quite a bit of price action in history since then. And you can see still a lot of shares are holding right here. And you can actually kind of see the price kind of stepping up this volume shelf. So, I mean, it's looking pretty strong. I mean, if I were just to quickly glance, you've got this really strong ascending triangle forming. And generally that resolves to the upside. So we'll have to see. I mean, it's interesting to see that for the most part, crypto's kind of taken a little bit of a break.
How about one more crypto look at Ripple?
XRP, alrighty.
And then I want you to let everyone know how they could get your software and follow your work.
Sure, absolutely. So Ripple, I mean, I hate Ripple, honestly. Ripple, and the reason why you see these types of moves here You got these impulse moves. When was this? This was in November. Ripple is not a finite resource or a finite asset, whatever you want to call it, like Bitcoin or Litecoin or even Ethereum. Ripple has a lot of shares that they can dump on the market. So, if you're familiar with penny stock, biotech penny stock, any run up on a biotech penny stock generally gets sold off immediately. One, people take profits. Two, there's a lot of shares that can be
dilution. Yeah, they could. That's their currency. Yeah. They'll pay some IR guy, 200,000 in free trading stock to generate or do the work to generate volume, and the IR firm just dumps it on the market. That's how they get paid.
Exactly.
Diluting by the company itself, right? Which is what you're saying here.
Yeah, XRP has like 100 billion coins or something, some crazy amount of coins that they can dump on the market. So they just sell into strength. And I really don't trade crypto. It's not my thing. I like to have my weekends.
All right, last request then. Platinum.
Platinum. I'm not even sure what that ticker is.
Can you have TrendSpider added to Motive Wave? Someone I know is using that Motive Wave program. Can you
not currently
marry the two?
Not currently, but we do hope to have like brokerage integration, in the future where you could hook up, another platform that has the ability to buy and sell, and you'd be able to integrate your data into.
I'd sell the platinum, Amira, but what do I know? I'm just a blind squirrel in the middle of a snow-covered forest, wearing shades.
I don't really look at platinum, to be completely honest with you. I mean, it's if this is the right, I'm assuming this is the right one. I really don't even know the XPT USD. I mean, it's definitely got this kind of bottoming formation. I mean, you definitely need to start breaking through these pivots here, these previous highs. But if inflation just keeps doing its thing, then I think anything can really move up on this just as a function of inflation. So, we'll have to see. I mean, silver, gold. I think silver is probably going up more, not because Wall Street Bets is buying it, but overall, we needed to fill this gap first of all, which seems to be happening today. But over the long run, I mean, silver's another example of this. We're not even near these 2011 highs. There's still quite a bit of room. If you start a volume weighted average price from this high, we're pretty much trading right at the average price since 2011. So we'll have to see. If I were to guess, it kind of looks like something like this. Kind of seems like we're just getting started here. I don't have a position in silver. I traded it, I think from like 16 to 25, but I have other plays that I like better. And
so why don't you show your website then, Jake, and how people could follow you? You could follow Jake at TrendSpider on Twitter and take TrendSpider on a test drive.
Yep. So if you go to trendspider.com and then you click on the pricing page, you can check out the different prices. If you want to kind of see the different things that we have to offer, if you just go to platform and go to overview, there's a ton of features I didn't even touch on today, just because, it's hard to kind of hit all of them. But if you want to learn more, we have the overview, and then we go into each individual feature at the top here. Pricing is going to tell you what you get. So, you've got your elite, you've got your premium and your master, with elite definitely being the most popular. And then you can see which features come with each plan. And I actually have a coupon code that everyone can use. It's DP25. So any prices you see here, you'll get another 25% off by using the DP25 coupon code. So if you're buying a monthly plan, that is, that's good for 1 month. If you're doing a yearly, you can get 25% off the whole year by by buying pretty much 12 months up front.
So it
We
should
also
be easy to remember. Dale Pinkert 25, DP 25.
25. Tried to make it easy for everybody. So that's the way that you can check it out. We do have a 7-day free trial, so it's not like you just have to jump right in and just buy it right away. We definitely want to make sure it's something that actually works for you. So the free trial is just kind of started once you pick a plan and do all that. So definitely something that's really for technical traders trying to get an idea of what's going on in the market in a different perspective. Raindrop charts, something I didn't really touch on, but raindrop charts, if you want to check them out, just go to YouTube and type in TrendSpider raindrops, and we have an explanation of what they are. But there's a lot of different things you can check out on the platform. It's one of those things that if you're a technical trader and you're looking for an edge or just trying to make the whole process more efficient, this is definitely something I think you'd find interesting. And if you don't like it and it's not for you, then you just cancel your free trial and you move on. You can check us out at TrendSpider on Twitter. If you wanted to follow me personally, it's just at TrendSpider_J. And so if you type in TrendSpider in the search bar, you're going to see TrendSpider pop up, and then I'll be right below it. You can check it out that way and see what I'm looking at. Anything that I'm trading is simply just my trades. Don't go blindly follow them or anything like that. But generally, I'm looking at mostly technicals with some type of laggard into there. So CRM is that example of just looking at a laggard of the whole market. It's nowhere near its highs. Markets, hitting all-time highs last week or the week before. So that's kind of my style, looking for the leaders versus the laggards and then playing the laggard.
Thank you, Jake, my trading warrior brother. Appreciate you being here. Hope 2021 is going to be your best year yet.
Hey, same to you. And once again, just one more time, DP25 for 25% off. Looking forward to the next one, and hopefully everyone has a good day.
Okay, everyone. Thank Jake.
All right, see ya.
And I really appreciate it. That's a wrap. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. You're welcome. People are thanking you, Jake. All right, so that's a wrap. Don't forget to join Blake for his bias chart coming up here, starting soon.
Yeah, and the rest of us. I'm going to open the webinar.
Yeah, and Steve, and Steve, you'll have to close it because I think you're in control. I only have leave here. I'm glad.
Yeah, and I'm going to open the other webinar immediately.
All right, so everyone, enjoy your session with the whole team and get Blake's look on the bias chart, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.